hope to learn more about UI UX design this semester and hope to have a good time with you all.
I assume it'll be my turn.
Sure, you can go.
Cool. My name is Adrian. I am the event coordinator. Um, I do not do anything cool like playing the keyboard in a band. I'm pretty boring, but yeah, welcome to the club. Have fun. Next person.
Oh, I guess that's me.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Dylan. I am the website director. I guess this is my 5th year in college now. I'm a BA in the design studies department with a concentration in graphic design. I guess a fun fact, I like to bake bread in my free time. Like I just made like 4 loaves last night. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin, and I'm the marketing director. So make sure you follow us on all the social medias. This is my 4th year of college, but I'm I'm a junior in the BA Design Studies program with a concentration in graphic design as well. An interesting fact about me, I feed like 150 homeless cats every week. So yeah.
So you really meant it when you were like, I have to go to San Jose to feed a cat, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's a program. It's not just like feeding feral cats. We like spay and neuter them, whatever. Anyways.
Hi guys, my name is Shifa. I'm the secretary. A cool fact is I enjoy painting and honestly anything that's related to art. So I'm really happy to be in this club also. And hi everyone.
Hello everyone, I'm Misa Rodriguez, but you can call me Misa for short. It's a lot more simpler. I'm your membership director, and fun fact about me is that I am open to any conversations you guys want to have with me. I like talking about soccer, so if you want to talk about soccer, I'm here.
Hey everybody, my name's Javier, Community Relations Director, and a fun fact about me is I really like bread. So I'm gonna be hitting up Dylan after this meeting, and we're gonna make something happen.
Okay, and we are lucky to have 2 faculty advisors. Dr. Evan Palmer is here today. He's the graduate coordinator in the Research and Experimental Psychology Master's Program. He's also a faculty member of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Master's Program and the director of a lab on campus. Professor Joshua Nelson, he's not here today, but he's the program coordinator of industrial design, and he's actually just started a new minor. I believe this year is the first year. He's a minor coordinator of interaction design. And I'm going to give Dr. Palmer an opportunity to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his background.
Okay, thanks. Would you like me to just introduce myself and do the background, or would you want me to talk about some of the UX projects? I made a little presentation.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Are you able to screen share?
I can. If you make me co-host, I will do that.
Okay.
And how long would you like me to talk? And this is mostly because, you know, professors like to talk, so tell me when to shut up.
I mean, we're not on a too hard of a time limit. I was thinking around 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'd love to hear, we just want to hear a little bit about your background, experience that you might have in UX, and maybe some advice for us as well.
Sure.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so if it's gonna shut off your screen share if I do mine. Welcome to the fun world of Zoom hosting. All us professors have learned how to do this recently. So now you feel our pain. But hi, everybody. I'm so happy that this club is getting going and that people have a place to get together. I know there's a ton of interest in UX and UI, and I'm just so excited that this is happening on campus. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, just kind of quick sort of resume career trajectory. I grew up in Southern California, and I went to the local school. I went to UCLA, and started out as a psychology major, decided I didn't want to be a therapist, and then I tried to figure out what I wanted to do after that. And I did a minor in computing, so I took some programming languages. I did another minor in business administration, so I took some accounting classes and things like that. And I ended up getting into this field called cognitive science, which is like a really interdisciplinary field that thinks about minds and mind-like things, whether they're based in silicon or based in carbon. And so that was what I ended up doing for my bachelor's degree. I stayed at UCLA for grad school, and I got into the psychology program, and I got a PhD in cognitive psychology. And during that time, I studied visual perception. So I was really thinking about the visual system and how the visual system works, thinking a lot about how the mind works, especially with the cognitive science part. So think about it like your eyes are like a video camera, and your brain is analyzing all the images that are coming in. What does that software look like? How would you figure out what the kind of representations and processes that are happening in the mind that help you understand the world? And that's basically kind of my research in a nutshell. I decided I wanted to be a professor at some point in grad school or something. And it turns out if you want to do that, you got to go get a postdoc somewhere. So I was able to get into a postdoc at Harvard Medical School, at Brigham and Women's Hospital. It was this very strange affiliation, but I studied visual attention and visual search, and in particular, computational modeling of that. So I tried to make little toy computer programs that simulated what we thought humans were doing. And then we see what the data that the little model predicts, and then you test humans and you see whether it's true or not, right? And you keep refining. So I was very much like on a basic science track. I was really kind of heading down that research field. I always liked teaching a lot. And one of the gigs I got in graduate school was I worked at a Hughes research lab, at a research lab near UCLA. And I got roped into a project trying to redesign next generation air traffic control displays. Like how do you optimize the shape and the size of the icons so that somebody looking at that display has a kind of moderate sense of depth separation between the icons, which represents the altitude. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was basically human factors work and kind of UI design. Very primitive, but when I went on the job market, you know, for those of you thinking about going into academia and potentially, basically there's a list of all the jobs available in the country, and you're like, it's a neuroscience job. I could do neuroscience, I'll apply to that one. It's a computational job. I can be computational, I'll apply to that. It's a human factors job. I don't know what human factors is, but I'll apply to that. Well, I got interviews for all the human factors jobs. And I think it's because you get trained in human factors and you go off into the field and you make a whole bunch of money, and nobody sticks around to make the little bucks in academia. So it came down to North Carolina State University or Wichita State University, and I got the job at Wichita State University and went into the human factors psychology program there. And at that point, I started to shift my research program and incorporate both, not just basic science, but also a lot of applied science. And that really rounded out my research and added something I didn't realize I was missing, which is like a sense of purpose, a sense of, not to be grandiose, but using your powers for good, right? Like trying to make the world a better place. And instead of just kind of studying not only just the tree in the forest, like the piece of the bark on the tree in the forest, I started to think about how do you use this stuff to try to, have fun projects. So I was at Wichita State for 9 years, had a good time there, enjoyed my life there, but my wife and I are both from California. Got a little homesick after 4 years in Boston and 9 years in Wichita. And there happened to be an opening at San Jose State University in the psychology department for a human factors person. And I thought, I can definitely do that this time. I really did have the qualifications to do it. So I was lucky enough to get the job, came here in fall of 2016. And I hold one of 2 human factors specific slots in the psychology department. The other professor is Dr. Dave Schuster, which a lot of you may know. And so the 2 of us are also involved in the human factors and ergonomics program. From the psych department, we also have Dr. Sean Laraway, who manages a huge grant at the NASA Ames Research Center up the road. We also have Dr. Carrie Feria, who's another perception person. She's a kindred soul with me, and she studies visual attention as well. So my lab is the Lava Lab, and I see that there's a few people from Lava Lab here. Nice to see you all. And so LAVA stands for Learning, Attention, Vision, and Application. And so hopefully that you understand where that name came from. Also, I just thought the name Lava was cool, and so that's where we went with. So that's where I am, and that's what I do. And let me tell you about a couple different projects I've done over the years. I think each one's a little different, not exactly straight up UX, but it involves users and how they think about products. So the first one was a manufacturer. This is like maybe 10 or 12 years ago. This is before the Apple Watch and the other smartwatches came out. If you take a look at that slide, you can see they're kind of the old school. This is an earlier generation. This is an exercise wristwatch. So the company that hired us had an exercise wristwatch, and they wanted a couple different things. There were several phases in this project. The first phase was they just wanted to know about wrist sizes. Like, what are the range of wrist sizes out there in the population? A lot of times when you're designing things, you think about the 5th and 95th percentile. Like, who's the smallest side of the scale and who's the largest side of the scale? So they wanted to know, what are the 5th and 95th percentile wrist sizes for women and men? How the heck do you figure that out? Well, it turns out the Army has a whole bunch of data where they've measured like the size of wrists and arms and things, because they have to make military uniforms and all that stuff. So my students and I went through and dug through these like old Army data records, and we found as many sources as we could. I put them into a model here on the left, and I fit a normal distribution curve to that model, and I can make, by fitting a data function to that, basically I knew the curve for men and women. So if you wanted to say like, what's the wrist size for the 80th percentile? We didn't have that data, but we could kind of extrapolate out, and you can figure out what it is. So that was the first phase of the project. The second phase was they wanted us to do a sort of first impression, first attempt kind of usability study with that wristwatch, which shall go unnamed, along with 5 other competitor watches. And so in particular, they wanted to make sure we recruited people with very small and very large wrists. So this led to some very strange recruiting practices where my students went to the gym on campus, super creepy, and they would see like a woman with a very small wrist and be like, "Hi, excuse me, miss. I couldn't help but notice you have very small wrist size. We actually have this study that's going, would you like to earn $50 by trying on these different wristwatches?" So there were lots of awkward things there, but we managed to recruit the people. And so we brought them into the lab, and we had them do a number of things. So first of all, we just laid out the watches. We said, what is your initial aesthetic impression on a scale of 0 to 50? And I'm gonna see if I can draw here. So what happened was we had this gigantic ruler on the table that was marked into here's 10, 20, did I do this right? Yes, 30, 40, and 50. And we actually asked the people to place the watches where they ranked them in terms of first their aesthetics, and then like a bunch of different things. So, you know, you put one watch here, and you tell them you can only give that number to one watch. So they might put one at 50, and then you're like, you can't use 50 again. So then that forces them like, okay, what's 49, right? And then you also see like, okay, there's one watch, like, I don't know, maybe this one here. You put it down here. And so that's a nice way to do things because it gives you not only an ordinal ranking, but you also have some sort of kind of interval data. So you have not only just like what's first, second, third, fourth, but how close are the top ones, right? How far away are the competitors? So we did that. We asked for initial impressions on aesthetics. We had them try all the watches on. And so this is all being videotaped. We had a facilitator, we had a video camera, and we had somebody running the video feed and dropping timestamps when each of these tasks happened. And so you put on like, okay, ready, put on the watch. They pick it up from the table, stick it on their arm. And one of the things that would happen was that the sponsor of this watch, people had a hard time getting the clasp to work. And you could see it because not only in the data did it come out, it took them like a second or two longer, but they struggled. It would fall off and they would utter things like, oh, this sucks, you know, oh man, this is terrible. And so we had that on video. And this is another thing I just want to communicate, which is when you're running this kind of evaluation for people, you're coming back to the people who made a product. You're basically telling them that, you know, this product that you spent all your time on, your baby's ugly. And I hate to be the one to tell you, but your baby's kind of ugly. And they don't want to believe you because they're going to be defensive. It's just human nature. So when you have that actual video reaction, and we created clips, so it was like, no, sorry, people can't put your watch on. And you play them clip after clip after clip of the user can't put the watch on. And then it's like the designers have to admit, okay, yeah, we got to work on the clasp. So that was another point. And then we also had to figure out like a way to test the profile of the watch and how easy it is to reach into your pocket to like get something out of your pocket. And we had to figure out like, how do you standardize that across a whole bunch of watches and a whole bunch of people who might have different, like maybe they don't even have a pocket on their clothes that day. So my collaborator came up with a great idea, which was we got an athletic tube sock and we put a penny at the bottom of it. And each person had to hold it and then reach in with the hand with the watch and try to pull out the penny. And so you got a sense of how much it caught, how long it took them, whether they struggled, that sort of stuff. So I thought that was really interesting because ain't no tube sock task I've ever seen in the literature. So that kind of shows that with this kind of evaluations, you have to be willing to come up with something interesting and different that's sort of logically representative of a user's task and to be able to kind of show what you're doing. The last thing I'll say about this project was the third phase. And in that one, we had people use the watch and the top competitor. And they wanted us to recruit like hardcore runners, people who ran 30 miles or more a week, which if any of you have run for fun, like that's a lot. That's really far. And so like, how do you find these people? And so we found the local like running club on a Facebook group. We had to recruit from those sorts of things. So some of you may end up starting your career in UX and you may start out as a recruiter. And so you got to get real creative and think about those things. And again, I'm happy to talk about any of these projects later if people have questions. And Kate or somebody, why don't you monitor the chat in case somebody has questions, and then just let me know, because otherwise I'll just get off track.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Second project I wanted to tell you about was some work I did with a restaurant consultant. And so he one of his things is that he goes into a restaurant, and it's kind of like one of these makeover design shows that you see where he helps them fix the decor. He gives like coaching to the wait staff about how to greet customers. And he also helps them redesign the menu. And one of the major things he does is he tries to simplify the menu because there's all kinds of clutter on these menus, all kinds of unnecessary visual stuff. So back at Wichita State, we had an eye tracker. And what you see here on the left, you see the breakfast menu of the actual restaurant. I think it's debranded. And I don't think this restaurant chain's out here in California anyway. The one in the middle that's white is actually the one he just kind of came up with a prototype, the one that he redesigned with fewer items. And this is part of what he knows as a professional, is he knows like we should get rid of certain items because you have to stock certain like ingredients that you only use for that item, and that's inefficient. Like you should only have menu items where you have common ingredients, these kinds of things that he knows. So what we did was we recruited people, and he was particularly interested in millennials. So we recruited millennials to come in. We gave them this menu ordering task. We said, imagine you're hungry for breakfast. Here's the menu. Look it over and tell the moderator what you want to order. And don't worry about cost or whatever, just order like you would normally order. And so here you see some of the heat maps from people who are ordering breakfast. And the heat map tells us over time, where do people tend to look on a menu? And what you should see, or one of the things we pointed out here to him as a consultant that was interesting, there's no heat on the pictures over here on the left, but you actually find people looking at the pictures on the one that was redesigned. And partly it's because it was so cluttered, people had so much text to process, they didn't really look at the pictures. And those pictures really influence what you order. So there are fewer pictures in the redesigned menu, but people actually looked at them, which was a big finding. And the name of the game in this industry, could tell you some inside information. They have certain items they really want you to order more than other items. They might be the same price, but they make a lot more money on certain items than other items, right? It's just the ingredients are cheaper, whatever. So they subtly try to arrange the menu to shift you towards purchasing these items that have a higher product margin for them. And if you've ever taken a class in cognitive psychology, you know something about the primacy and the recency effect, the fact that memory's better for like the first items that you hear in a list and the last items you hear in a list. That's a well-known memory phenomenon. But within the lore of like restaurant menu land, they think that you're more likely to remember or order the first items in a list of items or the last items in a list of items. And so they also think that you kind of look at them more and things like this. So what you see on the right here with the wine selection, they wanted us to look at what order on average, do people look at these different items within that menu. And so we created areas of interest around each of the different wines, and we took the average fixation order when their eye first entered that area of interest. And we looked at that across a bunch of different people. We're basically able to show them they don't look at these things in a predictable order, and you can't really use that as a heuristic to try to get people to order something or not. But this was all kind of like lore that was passed around by consultants and nobody had ever checked it. The last piece of lore they had was they were under this assumption that people read menus in like a Z-shaped pattern like this. Somehow that was just like accepted wisdom that people did that. And so one of the things we were able to do in our project is show like, no, people don't do it that way at all. So that was a fun project, and it involved some of my like visual perception stuff, but it also got me to learn a little bit about kind of the inside stuff with restaurant menus. And then the last one I want to tell you about is a project we did with the pharmaceutical company. And this company manufactures generic pharmaceuticals. So the patents are up for these drugs and anybody can manufacture them. I mean, obviously there's regulations or whatever, but any company can do this. And so how do you compete when you have a whole bunch of companies that are making the same drugs? And the way this company competed was they had really nice label design. And so in the medical industry, there are medical dispensation errors where a pharmacy tech or a nurse or a pharmacist, they're trying to grab a bottle of something and they get the wrong bottle. And the reason they do that a lot of times is because if you look at some of these, like these right here, 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 they use what we call, and even here, template labeling. So a company will have like a template and they'll just change the name of the drug and change the name of the dose. And so this other company actually had like bright and colorful labels with different aesthetic designs, right? Like different visual characteristic for each drug family and a very different color for each drug dose. And so the idea was these were going to be safer because they're easier to tell apart visually. And so their claim to fame and what they're trying to market was like, use our products because you reduce medical errors. Now, one of the problems they had was people wouldn't admit that they make errors. So the other part of the project was they had me write up a whole thing about optical illusions and how your brain tricks you and how that's all part of perception. And so they use that as a way to talk to people about, hey, your brain makes mistakes all the time. It's the way your brain works. But what we did was we actually recruited nurses, pharmacists, and pharmacy techs, and we brought them into the lab. We coded up this task ourselves. And so what happened was you had this 2 arrays of medicine bottles, and it's supposed to simulate if you open up the drawer of a medication cabinet, you have all these medicines and you got to find like, you know, adenosine 60 milligrams per 20 mil. Okay, where is it? And I'm going to grab it. And so as they moused over each drug, the picture came up, the preview picture, and that was supposed to simulate they're picking it up and looking at it. And then what happened was they had to click the drug, like adenosine 60 milligram per thing. Notice that they've got the 90 mil per 30 here. So they've got, this is actually the wrong drug here. And we also added a time limit. So it was counting down. So this is trying to give some like added pressure to simulate a really busy hospital environment where people might have to, you know, grab these things quick. So what we found was the template labeling, which is like their competitors, had a higher error rate across the board for our nurses, pharmacy techs, and pharmacists. And this was across like, I think we tested 6 or 8 families of drugs. Like heparin was a big drug for them. That's a blood thinner. The ceph drugs like cefazolin, cephalinoxone, whatever. All the blue drugs, all the green drugs. We had all these different comparisons they wanted us to do. And so we did 8 different tests, and in 6 out of the 8 tests, their brand was better. People had fewer errors and faster selection. One of them, it was tied, and in one of them, their brand was not as good as their competitors. So I do this, and I think this is freaking awesome. Like I actually recruited the nurses, I built this whole thing. They're making these claims. I now have the hard data with an ANOVA and everything. I've proven this is better. So I make the report, we turn it into them, and they're like, oh, that's cool. And they just totally buried it, and they never used it. And the reason is that the one drug that was not better was heparin, and that's like their flagship drug. And so it turned out that across the board, theirs was as good or better as everybody else, but it wasn't better in that one drug. And they didn't want to ever have, one thing I'll say about this company, they didn't want to have this report on their website. One thing I'll say about this company is they were very, very careful about the science, and they really were data driven. So they were like anything I said, they wanted to have a reference for it. And they, not just a reference, I had to download the article and highlight in the article where I found that information. That's how far they wanted me to go. So because it wasn't perfect news across the board, they kind of buried it. And so that was another lesson for me, which was, you know, first of all, they own that data because they're hiring me. So I, since then, have started a whole line of research on this, but it's not tied to that company at all. It's firewalled, totally separate. But, you know, they paid me, and they may pay you to do something, and then they may never use it. And you're just going to have to get used to it. Or you may be doing all kinds of usability work on this product that's coming out, and the company may decide, like, you know what, we're just not doing that anymore. Sorry. And it's like, okay. So, but, you know, hey, they paid me and I did the job and I got the deliverables out there, so we're all good. So I'll just tell you a couple, like some of the things we're researching in my lab, just to give you an idea of what we do in Lava. And then I've got a couple tips and advice for you folks. So I think one category of things I'm really interested in is improving what people call socially critical searches. So I study visual search, and there are lots of times when you have to look for like a tumor in x-rays, or guns, knives, and bombs in checked baggage at the airport, or a crack in an airplane wing, or the right medication in a drawer. And these have real world consequences, where if you get the search wrong, people can get injured or die. So I'm trying to figure out how to improve those things. And so we have a couple different lines of research. One of them is medical image perception. So trying to make novices better at like finding a tumor in an x-ray, for instance. There's something called the low prevalence effect, which is that if you're looking for a target that's there half the time, you're pretty good at finding it. But if it's only there 1% of the time, all of a sudden, even when it does show up, you tend to miss it. And it just seems to be this real fundamental effect. And that's obviously a problem for things that are rare, like tumors and x-rays. There's also something called value-driven attentional capture, which is when something is rewarding, it draws your attention. So you found a piece of, a dollar bill on the ground, you notice it because money grabs your attention. So I want to try to figure out how to leverage that to train people how to find things like guns, knives, and bombs, contraband and checked baggage. And medication labeling is another area. And then also I'm really broadly interested in how modern technology and things like that are shaping our attention and perception skills. So before the pandemic, we had this great line of research, we can't really do it now, where we were looking at how much is your attention drawn by your smartphone? Because you get all kinds of social rewards from that thing. So that should kind of like grab your attention. And if it's set to the right of the computer screen, is your attention biased to the right where your phone is? I've got a series of experiments we've been doing looking at how people perceive web pages, and in particularly advertisements on web pages, like banner ads, text ads. And now we've got a line of studies looking at native advertisements, which are like sponsored content. They look like articles, but it's actually just an advertisement at the end. A whole bunch of people in our lab are interested in autonomous vehicles. There's all kinds of really cool problems with that. How do you maintain situation awareness when you're not actively driving? How do you tell what you're supposed to do if you get a takeover request suddenly? How do you, in a glance, evaluate a traffic situation, and how does your peripheral vision contribute to that? And then finally, we've been doing a lot of work in gamification, which is adding game-like elements to boring tasks to try to make them a little bit more palatable and enjoyable. And so there's been a lot of work on that. So last slide here. I was trying to think about advice I would give you. And the first thing would be just learn a bunch of tools. Find excuses to learn how to use new programs. In particular, I highly recommend learn how to code a little bit. You don't need to be a web developer. You don't need to be a software engineer. But if you're going to be a UX professional and you're going to work on teams with the software engineers and with the designers and things like that, understanding how programming works makes you a really valuable person for interfacing. Especially human factors, UX, UI, you're like the kind of glue that ties a lot of these diverse teams together. So I would just say, make stuff, do projects, get involved, build your portfolio, volunteer to do things. This is my psychology bias, but I think learn your methods. Understand how to design experiments. Understand about counterbalancing, control, internal and external validity, all that good stuff, because it turns out that's actually a really marketable skill. A lot of people don't know how to do this, and no offense to the engineers, they really don't understand how to design experiments. And I think it's because in engineering, you're dealing with a predictable system with forces and loads, and you're dealing with equations that have determinate outcomes. In psychology, we deal with people who are fuzzy and mercurial and stochastic, and we understand that they're variable. So we understand about how you I think there's a fundamental difference in the mindset. So knowing how to make experiments is really, really useful, especially if you're going to test products. And know your statistics. It's boring as hell. I get it. But it's a marketable skill. And sometimes you gotta just eat your vegetables and get good at stats. Because it's sometimes a little boring, I think it's kind of cool, but people avoid it. And so if you can be good at that, especially like data science, you're gonna have a really good career path. And then finally, congratulations on being here tonight and doing my last recommendation, which is networking. Get out there, get to know people, join clubs, go to meetings, get to know groups, and also play the long game. So this is a really kind of a small field, and you're gonna be in this career for a long time. Networking is not necessarily about getting something from somebody. It's about meeting people and making connections and just maintaining those connections. So just meet people, say hello, have a nice conversation, and like, that's it. And then you might not see them for another year or two, and then you see them again. It's like, hey, how are you? And just these things really build over time. So you got to play the long game, and you guys got to stay on friendly terms with everybody. And then finally, LinkedIn. People often ignore this until you're just about to graduate, and then you like hurry up to try to like make your profile really nice. I would start early, and I think connecting and making those connections, and there's a lot of cool resources on LinkedIn. Optimizing your profile, having those keywords in the upper places of your profile. As you're learning your tools, you're learning your methods, add that stuff to LinkedIn. Get all that information in there, because probably your first job, you're probably going to be working for like a contract position in one of the companies in the Valley, and you usually have to do that for about 3 years before you can move to an in-house position. So those jobs are often recruited through LinkedIn. So that's my advice, and I'd be happy to take any questions if people have them.
I had a question. For the projects that you were presenting, I was just kind of curious, what was the general time frame on those projects from start to end?
These we had some more time because a lot of them were pretty involved. A lot of times it's like 3-4 weeks. And if you're actually doing stuff in industry, it's like maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
So you're thinking 3, 4, 5, 3 days or so, design it, come up with your materials, get it together, recruit, run, analyze, make your slide deck, and present like that last Friday. So in academia, we're terrible with these fast turnaround times. Like, it's just not how we work. Everything's like semester long. I'm thinking about what I'm doing in spring of 2022 at this point. So it's a real adjustment. So yeah, I did it a little bit slower than you would normally do in industry, I think. Anybody have any other questions?
I have a question. So for the medical label project that you were on, how did you manage to talk and test with nurses and farm techs and whatnot? Because I used to be in the industry to try to recruit these folk, and it's so hard.
Yep. I had some really talented recruiters. This was in Wichita, and one of my guys, Yi, he's actually about to defend his dissertation now, but he nice. One of these guys who just knows everybody. He's like cousins with this guy, and so he had friends of friends. Also, we paid $100 for like a 40-minute project for the nurses and the pharmacy techs, we had to pay the pharmacist $200 for that 40 minutes in order to get
Dang.
them.
Yeah.
Those pharmaceutical companies, man, they got that money. So
It's sweet. Connections.
yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So
Javier.
what made you decide to go into academia versus pursuing you know, the private industry lifestyle, just the fancy suits and the, you know, you'd be driving a Ferrari, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. A couple different things. I think just my personality is just like a really good match for the academia. My mom was a professor when I was growing up. And so as a little kid, she was at Southern Illinois University and Arizona State University. So I just like grew up on college campuses. I'm like, so I know like very formative early years of just being on a college campus, being around college age people, riding my little bike around Arizona State, you know. So I think that had probably like some early kind of imprinting. And then, I don't know, both my wife and I think in terms of the whole money thing, you spend so much of your day doing your job that for me, it's just really important that that's personally fulfilling and that I just get direct happiness from my job rather than use my job to get the money, which is then supposed to get me the happiness. It's like, why not just, so my wife's an attorney and but she's like a public interest attorney for a nonprofit. So, you know, we drive an old Subaru and things like that, but we're happy.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that was really informative, and I'm glad you're here because that was awesome to hear.
Let's all give him a round of applause for all his work.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. So I teach cognitive psychology. I'm teaching a big double section of cognitive next semester. I often teach the human factors class. It's going to be taught by Dr. Tony Andre next semester, 173. He's awesome, so you should check him out. I also have been teaching a cognitive science class. Right now I'm teaching it as a 190, which is a capstone class. What else do I teach? I teach perception. So if you want to know how vision, hearing, taste, touch, smell, and vestibular work, although we never have time to go into vestibular, but come take that class with me. Be happy to see any of you there.
Yeah, everyone who I think has taken a class with you in the chat is writing, take a class.
Awesome, great, thank you. All right, well, I did mention that I'm from the LA area and the Lakers are about to seal it, so I gotta go watch that.
Thank you so much for that. That was like super helpful to get some.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if before you leave, could I take a screenshot of the Zoom with everyone smiling for those that have their cameras on? Make yourself look pretty.
Fix your hair, everything.
Okay. Oops. Okay, my computer's not working. Does somebody else want to do it, Katie?
Wow.
Let me see.
Sorry, I literally just tried it. It didn't go.
That's all right.
It's easy to put this smile on, Erin.
I'll do it on my phone as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Should we just do a 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Cool.
All right.
Yay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later.
Thank you so much.
Evan. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
That was so awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to screen sharing now. Let's see. And we're just going to discuss a little bit more about the club specifically and our plans. Okay, you guys are able to see the mission statement up here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to read out the mission statement. Our constitution will be available on our Discord as well. Hopefully you guys are all on our Discord. It's where we're most active. The UX UI Association intends to give students who are interested in this new and developing field a means to learn more about it. This club is a place for members of different majors to discuss how this field is relevant to them. Members of the club will be able to learn more through workshops, guest speaker events. Furthermore, the club will help with portfolio building and job opportunities. The reason that we started this club, and I know some of you guys have been involved in this since the beginning, and we've grown a lot already within like a couple months. We've only been officially recognized for like a couple weeks, but we've got a good amount of people on Discord. So thank you for everyone who's been involved since the beginning, or who's newer, who's joining from other clubs where we've been advertising. It's great to see you all here. I felt that there's a need among students of different fields, so coming from different majors and backgrounds, to have a place to learn more about user experience and user interface, have a collaborative environment, have more access to resources, have a place to do some hands-on projects and workshops, and have a place to showcase their work as well. If you've looked into getting into this field, it feels, at least for me, it felt really overwhelming looking at all the resources. I was like, where do I start? So I'm hoping that working together, we can kind of, work through it together and practice different methods and learn different methods in a way and share all of our resources and knowledge with each other. I'm going to give a little bit of a background on user experience and user interface. This is very, very, very simplified version of it. So really, user experience wasn't a term until 1995 when Don Norman coined the term, but the concept of it has been around for a super long time. At first, in the early 1900s, Frederick Winslow Taylor came out with a book for the principles of scientific management, and he was heavily criticized for trying to depict people as like cogwheels, is what people said. But really, he looked at the way that people do work and the way that people interact with their tools. World War II, I just learned about this in my human factors course, was a huge influence on the development of the human factors field, and especially with aviation. And user interface became really a thing when personal computers became a thing, because there was a need to look into how people interact with their computers and interfaces, and the development of like a mouse system and a cursor system became relevant, and that was like a huge technological advance at the time. And since the 2000s, like so much stuff has happened, and user experience is relevant to so many different fields now. So what is user experience? Some jobs that you may see in user experience would be UX design, UX research, UX strategy, UX writing. UX can apply to anything that can be experienced, was a quote that I found that I really liked. And I really like this definition as well. User experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So when I was looking into UX at first, I was thinking it was just websites, like designing websites. That's what I thought it was, or making websites better. But something that I've realized through some of the work that I've done is that it can apply to digital products, physical products, or not even a product at all. It could be just an experience, such as like the way that I was doing a project with the way that we experience healthcare, like from booking an appointment to going there and who we interact with along the way. User interface. I was looking up some jobs under UI, what job descriptions come up. You'll see the title interaction design, graphic design, visual design, and you'll also see a lot of developer jobs if you just look up UI jobs. UI design is the transfer of a company's vision, brand, research, and content into a visually appealing and easy to use digital interface. So one aspect of UI that some people disagree with it, but overall people say that UI is specifically digital and visual products, whereas UX can be just experiences that are not necessarily digital and visual, but something that we experience through other means. And here's another quote that kind of helps me to understand the difference. A UX designer focuses on people's experience, what motivates or frustrates them, what they enjoy and don't enjoy, what satisfies them or brings them delight. A UI designer's job is about aesthetics, interaction, and function. They focus on the visual elements, buttons, links, icons of a user interface, as well as its interactivity. So I actually typed up some notes as well, and I have all of the links to these the articles that I'm referencing here. And this is going to be posted with the video. So if anyone wants to know more information, it was super informative for me to look into this and kind of have it written out from people who have experienced it and people who have examples of the differences between the two. And the importance of this is aesthetics, function, and experience. They're all different elements that are affected, that come into effect differently and that all tie in together to kind of create the overall experience, the overall feel, the overall compatibility between the user and that product or that company. There are so many careers in user experience and user interface right now. Something that I've found is when I'm looking for jobs is that there's so many different titles. Because some of the common ones that show up is UX design, UI design, UX research, and UX strategy. And under UX strategy, there's UX writing, there's content strategy, there's I can't think of writing, voice design. There's so many different ones. Like there's so many different ways that user experience can be used. And something that I think is awesome is that we come from a lot of different majors, and a lot of us, I think, have different career goals, and we want to apply this to different fields. And really right now is a time that the user experience field is expanding to multi-disciplines. Okay, and then about us, a little bit more about us. There's going to be a lot of more opportunities for members to get involved. So Erin, did you want to talk a little bit about marketing?
Sure. So as the marketing director, I've wanted to open it up if anybody else is in design or in marketing and wants to assist on creating posts or helping me with anything marketing related. It can be a great thing to put on your portfolio. And also just a good way to get more involved in the club. So if you would like to join or create a marketing committee, then message me on Discord or say something here and I'll jot your name down. But I don't have like a ton of work for even myself to do right now, so I'm not sure we could figure something out to make sure that everybody gets involved. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're just getting started and we're still a small club, but we're hoping that we'll expand more and I really want to provide students who are interested with the opportunity to do something to build the resume or do something to apply the skills that we're learning. Also, I know that some members have already, or Jessica has already submitted some content. If you guys saw her article in the newsletter that I sent out, thank you for doing that. If anyone is interested in kind of content creation, that could be something visual or it could be written articles as well. That would be wonderful, and I would love to feature it in our newsletter. In the future, as we are developing larger events, we may have the opportunity for an event committee and for fundraising as well. That's something that we're going to have to look into more. We actually still have a position open for an officer position as the fundraising director if anyone is interested. There's information on how to apply for that in the Discord as well. There's an officer application. So yeah, hopefully we'll have lots of opportunities for anyone who happened to be interested to kind of share resources and just practice. Okay, so this has our Discord information. We're going to be sending out the presentation as well, the membership form, because I know that we do have some people visit or some friends from some other clubs that might not necessarily be in our Discord or have filled out a membership form as well. Here's our email address and our social media as well. And I was just kind of, now I'd like to open it up if anyone wanted to. Oh, okay, I see I run the SJSU Design Studies server. Cool. If anyone wanted to kind of introduce themselves and a little bit of their experience or something that they're excited for, I'd love to hear from you guys. And we're also going to have a little game night in Discord if anyone is interested playing Among Us. Yeah. Javier, Among Us, yes. I could see you like screaming. But if anyone wanted to introduce themselves by coming on the mic or the video or just in the chat, please feel free to do so.
Regina, can you please say a few words about yourself?
Say something, Archie. Say it.
Why? What the? Why am I being ganged up on?
She's obviously the pro.
Dang it. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Harjina Singh. I am a second-year Human Factors and Ergonomics student at SJSU. It's nice to meet you all. I see some familiar faces in the Lava Lab run by Dr. Palmer. My main experience is in UX research, so if any of you have any questions in that realm, questions about working the job in industry, I would love to help answer those questions. Thank you. All right, who's next?
You should pass the mic to someone.
Yeah, I think by virtue you get to call out somebody. You're like, you.
Oh.
Pick on someone.
Oh, jeez.
Javier, go.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, man.
Oh yeah, no, I was ranting to myself. I'm sorry. Yeah, so like earlier, I'm a student in psychology. I'm in my last semester, minoring in human systems integration, and I'm currently looking into master's programs in psychology. But I'm interested in user experience as a possible career path for the future because I'm interested in the research side of things. So yeah, I read a lot of stuff, and so if you guys want to talk about like articles or documentaries, I'm a big fan of documentaries. If any of y'all want to suggest them, hopefully we can open up like a section in Discord about that. But yeah, Jessica, say something.
This is actually really good timing because I actually have to go right now, but I'll introduce myself real quick. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica. I'm a graduating senior. I am a psychology major. I'm a double minoring student as well, so I'm double minoring in HSI like Javier, and I'm also minoring in kinesiology. I'm looking to go into UX research and potentially applying for grad school. Applying for the Human Factors grad program next fall, so we'll see how that turns out. And I'm really glad that this club was made right on my last semester, so this kind of works out really well. Really sad I won't be able to see any of you guys next semester though, but hopefully, crossing my fingers, if I get into the grad program, I'll see you guys again. So yeah, I gotta head out, so it's good to see you guys. Hope to see you at future events.
Bye. Miss you. Bye.
Throw it to somebody first. Throw it over.
I'll watch the rest of the video later, but I do have to go because my dog's like needing to go to the bathroom. But I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm in the Rex program. My name is Erin. I'm late coming to UX research, but I'm pivoting really hard. I'm taking Human Factors 273. Anybody wants to start a study group, I am like a little overwhelmed with the amount of learning curve that you have to do, having no human factors experience besides the tertiary like psychology program stuff that you get introduced to. So yeah, I would love to talk to you, Harjina, more about UX research because that's the direction I definitely want to go. And this has been an amazing experience. I look forward to talking more with you guys throughout the rest of the year. So bye.
Bye, Erin.
Thank you.
Dewey, introduce yourself.
I ain't doing a damn thing. I ain't doing a damn thing. Uh, like Aaron, I'm second year in the Rex program, and last year I was introduced to UX. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew all the cognitive things. I went to UC Merced and minored in cognitive science, so I know all the theory, know all the things. But then when they were like, here's how you apply it to UX. I was like, I know all these things. And they're like, yeah, you know all these things. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, okay, I do know all these things. Cool. But unlike Evan, I still want to become a therapist. I wanted to get an MFT. Then I saw research. And I was like, ooh, let's get this PhD. And then I was like, ooh, no, I got to get a master's, learn more about experiments. I was like, all right, take this class. What? Silicon Valley? What? Computers, planes, da-da-da. All right, I learned that too. So, it's been an overwhelming experience. But I came here because I want to, support you guys, because if y'all undergrads create a club, I give you, all my availability that I have. If you're like, yo, how do I do this? How do I do this experiment, Dewey? How do I do these stats? I'm like, yo, man, I don't know either, but let's figure that out.
I love it.
So, you guys, I believe in you guys. You guys can do it. And like Evan said, it's hard work. It's not fun. But I'm a dum-dum, and I'm in a graduate program. So, if I can do it, you can. Hardina's like, no, you ain't dumb. You ain't dumb. I'm pretty dumb.
He's not dumb. He has so much knowledge.
I'm so old. I just don't look that way.
You're old and wise.
Because I'm Asian. Because I'm so old.
Get out of here. Finish your damn introduction.
Who else? Aaron. Aaron's Toby Maguire's. Aaron.
I have to introduce myself? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I kind of already did in the beginning, but
we love officer introductions.
Yeah.
I don't want to know, the office. Who are you, Aaron, as a person?
Okay.
Who are you?
I live here. I really don't have anything interesting to say about myself. I'm a graphic design major.
Wait, don't you do graphic design work?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, that's something.
I work at
I
work at a birth control delivery company, so I do graphic design to deliver birth control to women and make it more accessible, because I'm all about women's rights, health rights. Make sure you vote. Just saying, not gonna talk about politics, but make sure you vote. And I love art, and I love people, and I'm really sad that we can't all just hang out. But anyways.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it looks like a lot of people do have to go.
Yeah.
So I recommend if you want to drop your LinkedIn in the chat so we can all connect on LinkedIn and grow our network a little bit. If anyone else would like to speak, feel free. I'm not gonna call out necessarily everyone because I know that we're kind of running a little bit over time. Does anyone else want to introduce themselves though?
I'll do it after, but I just wanted to give an announcement because eventually I'll have a committee for the website.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, after I get the website off the ground, because right now it doesn't exist.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, I should probably do an introduction though. Like Aaron, I'm also a design student, slowly dying. I got one more semester left after this, and I'm trying to apply to the Human Factors program. And I'm doing the HSI program right now, so.
So is anyone down to play Among Us in Discord?
Among Us.
Because we've been wanting to play this.
We've been putting this off for weeks.
We've been trying to get a group together for a couple weeks here.
Oh.
I've never played before, so.
Let's play. It's
so
super
much fun.
easy.
And it's
so
free on the
easy.
phone.
You just have to do a bunch of tasks, and there's a little map on the top right. And you click on that to see where the exclamation mark is, which is where your tasks are, and then you have to go to that area, do them before you die. But even if you die, they still make you work because socialism.
Yeah, my little brother, I was like, can you please tell me how it works? And so he told me how to play, so we'll see. Got some tricks up my sleeve.
I don't like being imposter. That's all I'm gonna say. I suck.
I've never been an imposter.
And being imposter is really fun.
Stressful. It's so stressful.
I
think the best place to kill people, or kill people, is electrical, because
Don't
there's like
say
a
it right
Don't
now.
say
You're
it.
gonna give up your idea.
Everyone already.
Your
Dude,
game
I already gave
plan.
myself away. Everyone knows that I suck at it, at being imposter. So just vote me out, like right then.
All right, it's like 7:15, and I think we lost like half our people already because they had to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting. But thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll see you in the Discord.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.